going to get into the specific treaties. Last time we introduced the Paris Peace Settlement, right? So today we are going to start with the series of the specific treaties. And like I said last time, what I'm going to do today is what?
The treaty of Versailles.
Versailles Treaty, thank you. So we are going to look into the Versailles Treaty. It was signed with which country? Yes?
Germany?
It is Germany, thank you. So it was signed exactly 5 years after the Sarajevo assassination. So I said that most of these treaties that were signed were diktats. What does it mean? When I say the treaties were diktats, starting with the Versailles Treaty, I say something along those lines in the last lesson. Why did I say Chichi?
It was like they given like orders without like
Yes. So diktats is from the word dictating, right? So the German delegates were not invited to deliberate about the terms of the Versailles Treaty. They were only called to what? To sign what was already there. So this Versailles Treaty is divided into two. They are what we call, number one, territorial terms. Then number two, what? Non-territorial terms. That's the entity of the entirety of the Versailles Treaty as a whole. We have the territorial terms and the non-territorial terms. Can someone define what we mean by territorial terms? What do we mean? Yes. Yes, who can come up with another explanation? Territorial terms, do you want to say something? Clay, what can you say about territorial terms?
I think this has to do with the areas that were...
Yes, the countries that were involved, the areas that we, you're trying to focus on you. Alright, sorry, that's not bonus. Anyways, it's fine, continue. Right, the territorial terms, right? Then non-territorial what? Non-territorial terms. The territorial terms is about the countries which Germany lost. The word territory is something to do with the country or with the land. The non-territorial terms have nothing to do with the countries. There are some other things like the military losses which Germany faced. So let us look at the territorial terms of the Treaty of Versailles. I'll try to list what Germany lost. Germany lost Alsace and Lorraine to what? To France, very good. The Saar was to be administered by the League of Nations for 15 years. There was what they call the Saar Valley. It was a coal-rich area. Then it was supposed to be given to the League of Nations for administration. Then Eupen, Mahomet, and Moresnet, they went to what? To Belgium. Then Northern Schleswig was given to Denmark. The port of Memel and surrounding land was placed under international control. The Rhineland remained part of Germany, but it was demilitarized permanently. Chichi, what do you understand by demilitarized?
It means that they're not allowed to have like soldiers or armed forces in their
Excellent. So Poland was made independent. Then the Polish corridor and Posen were given to Poland. Then the port of Danzig, a predominantly German area, was made an independent city under the League of Nations, but in practice it fell under Polish control, as this was to allow Poland direct access to the sea through the creation of the Polish corridor, which led to Danzig. So Germany also lost the coal and iron-rich area of Upper Silesia that was given to Poland, and the union of Germany and Austria, called the what? The Anschluss. It was forbidden. Then the Kiel Canal was opened to the shipping of all nations, and the Baltic states of Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia were granted independence from Germany. Then Finland was made an independent state. Strasbourg and Metz were given to France. All German islands in the Pacific Ocean, you can name them. There is what? The German islands in the Pacific Ocean. They included which countries? Right? There was Australia, there was New Zealand and Japan. Southeast Asia went to New Zealand. Caroline Islands went to Japan. New Guinea was given to Australia. Tanganyika is what nowadays? Right now.
Not Tanzania.
Tanzania. It was given to what? To Britain. Then Germany lost Southwest Africa to South Africa. Then Rwanda and Burundi went to Britain. I want to, before we analyze, before we deepen our scopes further, before we think deeply, there is a certain degree of unfairness in how these territories are moving around. What can you say about it? Especially in the last point. Let me read them again. Southeast Asia went to New Zealand. Caroline Islands went to Japan. New Guinea was given to Australia. Tanganyika was given to Britain. Yemen lost Namibia to South Africa. Rwanda and Burundi went to Britain. What is happening? I'm just going to read it. What is happening? I want people who think. Eh? Let me read again. Caroline Islands went to Japan. New Guinea was given to Australia. Tanganyika was given to Britain. Yemen lost to South Africa. Yemen lost Namibia to South Africa. Rwanda and Burundi did not go to Rwanda and Burundi. They went to Britain. I've given you another clue. What can you say, Helena? Yes, Britain getting more territories and what?
The overseas colonies, most of them still remained like colonized.
Yes, that's the actual and the most correct answer. Panzi tidzosere Caroline Islands ku Caroline Islands. Like imbava zvirikubawo futi. Urikuona imbava dzikubira dzimwe mbava. Zvangofana kuti mapurisa obata mbava dzine zvinhu. Then mapurisa yobva atora futi zvinhu zvine mbava dzidzi. So dzese dzingori mbava. These countries were supposed to be free, but they were now perpetuating their colonialism over those countries. That's the unfairness. Right, and the unfair thing is like Germany is losing the territories to what? To some of the countries which she fought with during the war. That's the point that is being driven home here. And Cameroon and Togo were given to Britain and France, who governed them jointly. Right. So Germany lost a couple of what? A couple of territories. And you might be asked, were the territorial terms of the Treaty of Versailles fair to Germany? Were they fair? Yes, you might say they were fair to some extent. Why? Number one, the return of Alsace-Lorraine to France was fair. Why? Because originally Alsace-Lorraine belonged to what? To France. Number one. Number two, the return of Nottingham/Wick to Denmark was fair, as it belonged to what? To Denmark. Then Germany had taken 1/3 of Russian territory through the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. So these territories had to gain independence. And Germany had caused great destruction to France and Belgium. She was now testing the bitterness of her own medicine. So the demilitarized Rhineland was to act as a buffer zone against French insecurity. It was going to proffer what? Security. But however, it was unfair. I think the first point is the one we addressed here. This Versailles Treaty was unfair because it was a diktat. Germany was only called to what? To sign. Right? Then Germany was greatly reduced in what? In size. And Germany lost colonies which were a source of raw materials. And Germany was not allowed to have colonies, yet other countries were allowed to. And the Germans found themselves as minorities in newly created states. And Germany was forbidden to unite with Austria. And in Austria, there were about, they say around 3 million Germans. Like Austria was actually a German state. Austria might Germans, but that Angelus disintegrated. Right, so let us move on to the non-territorial terms. So under the non-territorial terms, we are supposed to address 3 things, right? Number one, we have the reparations clause. Then number 2, we have the war guilty clause. Then number 3, we have the what? The disarmament, right? Disarmament clause. These notes are not in the chronology that I want. The war guilty clause should be the first one, right? Because for us to press the reparations issue upon Germany, we should make sure that she's what? She's guilty, you know. So the war guilty clause was trying to send a message to Germany that she is now taking all the blame for causing the World War. So she is going to be punished accordingly, you know. So the war guilty clause, yes, number 1, Germany was forced to accept the responsibility of causing all of the loss and damage to which the Allied and associated powers had been subjected as a consequence of a war imposed upon them by the aggression of Germany and the Allies. So it's like, if you'd like to use court language, there is what we call the war guilty clause, right? Is like the judgment. And the judgment has been meted out already. That Germany was what? Was on the wrong side. So then the reparations clause and the disarmament, it becomes the what? The sentencing. And that's what happens in court. Mukoti kana nyaya ichiitika panouya munhu anenge achimhan'ara neumwe anenge arikuzvidhifenda. So basa rajaji nderekuzotarisa chi masaidzi ese ozopa chi judgment kuti une mhosva here kana kuti hauna, then ozopa chi sentencing futi. Right. So Germany was given the entire blame for causing the war. The clause accused Germany of being a war criminal who, among other things, violated Belgian neutrality according to what? To the what? What's the name of that German's plan in which they passed through Belgium? It's called the Schifflin Plan. So Germany was also charged for doing that. Then Germany was forced to accept all this and was to suffer a heavy penalty. French flags captured in 1871 were to be returned, and the K's and other officials were to be handed over for what? For trials. For trial, they were supposed to be charged and sentenced. Then there's the reparations clause, quite interesting. Germany was forced to pay compensation for the damages she had caused to the Allied war. So if she bombed any area or areas, she was supposed to account for that. The compensation was also to cover the suffering incurred by individual family members. Kana paine baba wakafa kuhondo vauraiwa nemasoja eGermany, Germany yaifanira kusara ichichengeta mhuri dzacho dzasara, mukadzi wemurume iyeye nevana vake nemazukuru. Germany was supposed to pay. Then Germany was to pay 6.6 million pounds to the Allied powers, and the payment was supposed to be done in installments up to what? 30 years. So France was to get 52% of the total amount, Britain 22%, Italy 10%, Belgium was supposed to get 8%, and the rest of the allies were to share 8%. You find out that the major powers, the major allied powers, were gaining a lot. They were like gloating, they were enjoying a purple patch. They were now saying we are the ones who silenced Germany. So we are entitled to these benefits. That's why you find out that if you do analyze the percentages share, you find out that countries like France and Britain gained more. Are you getting the sense? So part of the reparations were to be paid in form of warships which were to be built by Germany to Britain. And France was to be paid with the minerals, like coal from Germany. But the most unfair part is the mineral-rich province, the Saar mineral-rich province, was taken by the what? By the League of Nations, of which Germany was supposed to pay France with what? With the coal. That's the unfairness. Kuti munhu anokumisa kuti uende kubasa then kuti ndipe mari. Ndikaenda kubasa kana ndokuti ndowane mari yekukupa. Bonzi hayi wachitoitsvaga usingaendi kubasa kudaro. That was the thing. Because according to the arrangement here, the Saar Valley was coal rich. But my reparations kunzi Germany yafanira kubhadhara France necoal. Coal yacho the area ngaine coal beyatoro. So France was to be paid with the minerals like the coal and from Germany, and Belgium was to be paid with what? With the cattle. Germany was to surrender part of a fishing fleet to the Allies. Germany was to surrender the Saar coal fields to France for 15 years. German railway engines and wagons were to be handed over to the Allies. Then there was the disarmament clause. Disarmament clause meant that the German military was supposed to be what? To be suppressed, or it was supposed to be reduced in size, you know. So Germany's army was reduced to 100,000 men. It was reduced to the size of the army of Greece. Conscription is like for someone who was joining army. It was forbidden, right? That soldiers were to be recruited what? Voluntarily. No soldier was supposed to be forced. Yes. So the German soldiers were to serve for a period of less than 12 years. And the German General Staff of 1914 to 1918 was dissolved and was not to be reformed, because it is this squad which was so adamant during the war. So Germany was not allowed to have tanks, Germany was not allowed to have an air force, Germany was not allowed to have cruisers or vessels. Germany was to have only 12 destroyers. She was only supposed to have 12 torpedo boats, and his army was reduced to 15,000 men. And Germany's naval base at Heligoland was demolished. And Germany was banned from manufacturing heavy artillery and heavy what? And heavy guns. And she was not allowed to have armored cars. And Germany was demilitarized on the what? On the Rhineland too. Right. So, you might be asked, to what extent did the Allied powers weaken German military power? Right? To what extent? Number one, Germany's army was left weak. She was left with a small-sized army and prohibited to what? To conscript. Number two, she was left without an air force. How can you survive as an army without an air force? So she was forbidden from having the U-boats, right? The submarines. Remember, it is the submarines are the ones which sank those boats, right? During the course of the World War. What were the names of those boats? The names of the boats which were sunk by the Germans, which had some Americans in them. They were what? They're not reading, guys. History have to be factual, guys. What are the names of the boats? The Success and the Lusitania, right? Yes. So Germany was not allowed to have this what? The submarines. And the German High Command was disbanded. Right. So a question might be asked, were the non-territorial terms of the Treaty of Versailles fair to Germany? They were fair because Germany was largely responsible for causing the war. Because if you analyze all the causes of the First World War, you find out that Germany is involved in about 95%. In fact, when you talk of the alliance system, which is one of the major underlying causes of the First World War, Germany was the actual country which started that alliance system, because they wanted to isolate what? France. Yes. Then number two, she had an aggressive foreign policy. She had a war plan, right? The Schifflen war plan was designed in 1905, which means she was so determined to see bloodshed. You know, imagine planning for war. Where there is peace, in the midst of peace, then you hear someone planning for war. So that person also caused the war. So Germany's army was to be reduced to prevent her from starting another war. And the German militarism needed to be checked, hence the need for disarmament. And France and Belgium needed compensation for their destruction, especially Belgium. Because when we mentioned about the alliance system, when we mentioned about the Triple Alliance and Triple Entente, we never heard about Belgium. Up until when the Germans passed through Belgium according to their Schifflen plan. So it was provoking like a peaceful country, a neutral country. They violated that London Treaty. Right, then unfairness of the non-territorial terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Number one, Germany did not cause the war alone. Let us exonerate in this regard. Germany did not cause the war alone. Because the war involved many countries, and the war involved other countries too. From the causes and the cause, other countries like Britain, like France, like Germany were also involved. So it is traversing of justice, or it's unfair to keep on blaming Germany with regards to the causes of the what? Of the First World War. So some blame must be apportioned to the other what? To the other countries. Right. Germany's army Okay, reduction of the army and navy posed a threat to German security, and the terms were dictated on Germany, and the reparations were too high and unrealistic. That money that's imari yakawandisa kuti haimeke sense yakangori meant kukaurisa chete. So she was to build warships for allies, yet Germany's warships were destroyed, and she was even forbidden to have an air force, yet other countries possessed some, and Germany was not allowed to rearm, yet other countries were allowed to do so, and the treaty punished innocent people, right? Yes. Could I go to Bismarck and pay you by then? No one will ever punish by one. Nana Kaiser Williams. Because at the end of the day, the Germans had to raise taxes in their countries in order to pay for the reparations. So that's it, guys. I'm sure tomorrow or Thursday I'm coming again. We have to do the rest of the work, the rest of the treaties. Now we're not going to deal with the what of all the treaties. The Versailles Treaty is the longest. So the other treaties can be managed in one lesson. Treaty of Saint-Germain, Treaty of Lausanne, Treaty of Neuilly, we'll do it in one lesson. Then we'll be done and dusted. Then it was your next lesson. We're now getting into what? Legal relations. So I want to remain the one